Lance and Jasper Show, broadcasting live. Special guest right here, Squirrel from the Finebaum Show. And I'm going to tell you, man, if you want to get on the show, hit me up on Twitter or 423-509-7007. Squirrel, what's on your mind, bro?
Man, what an honor to be on the show with the famous Lance and Jasper and talk a little Gator football.
I'm curious to hear your thoughts because you said on Twitter 8-4. I'm not going to argue or blast you like I would Finebaum. I try to be respectful to my guests. But tell me your thinking of this 8-4 record.
Well, I'm just trying to keep it real, you know.
That's fine.
And I'm a Florida fan. Believe it or not.
Wow.
And I always have been for a long time. I'll tell you about that later.
Wow.
But no, I'm just looking at the record. I pulled up the record. I looked at it. I'm being realistic. Florida has got a long way to go from last year, and their offense is what I'm talking about in particular. And I think they'll be doing good to go 8-4, maybe 9-3 this year. And I can just about tell you what games they're going to lose if you want me to.
Well, I could probably tell you the games you think they're going to lose anyway, and I would say one of those is South Carolina, right?
I had South Carolina as a toss-up, and then I finally put an L on it. I had Florida State, and I had South Carolina as toss-ups. I put a W by Florida State, and I put an L by South Carolina.
Wow. Oh, that's pretty good. I'll take that. But tell me, man, because I just don't see Florida losing a home game this year. And here's why. Because the fan base has never been united like this. They haven't had a home field advantage in years. You could go back
to fans don't score points, Lance.
Fans don't score points.
Hold on a second.
The
fans don't make a single tackle. Trust me.
I'm not saying they do. But it makes a big difference when you feel the support of the fan base, when the cities combine and the city ain't on you and it don't feel like people are showing up just to tell your coach that he sucks. When people are there to cheer for you, if you've been an athlete and you've had a real home field advantage, it does make a difference. I'm not saying it wins games for you, but it does matter in the way you compete, and the atmosphere of game day sells on recruits. And that's where the Gators have been lacking, man. So it does matter. But here's the deal. At the end of the day, South Carolina, what is the strength of their team? Passing the ball. Well, guess what? We got the best secondary in the nation. The pick six click.
Whoa. But wait a minute. Your defensive line just had 23 sacks last year, Lance. I mean, you've got to put more pressure on the quarterback. You can have the best secondary in the world. If they've got all day to throw it, they can't cover them forever. So, again, your defensive line has got to step up.
Well, don't you think Todd Grantham is the right hire if you want to get more blitzing, if you want more sacks?
Defensive coordinator. He runs a 3-4 defense, and he'll. And Florida's got a good defense. Florida's defense kept them in a lot of games last year. In spite of their offense.
Has Todd Grantham ever had two corners this good? I don't think so.
They've had some pretty good defenses at Mississippi State.
I'm talking about corners. He ain't never had two corners like this that allow you to blitz in a way that you've never been able to before because you got to worry about leaving people on islands. You can leave C.J. Henderson and Marco Wilson on islands all day. They can handle it. That is a big upgrade.
You live by the blitz and you die by the blitz. You know, you live by the blitz and you die by the blitz. I'm not worried about Florida's defense.
Well, talk about the offense. How can you not say that Trevor Grimes and Ben Jefferson would at least make you go up one win? For me, I mean, they're good for two. If you're thinking 8, you should at least be at 10 with the addition of those guys on offense. You can't match up with all 5.
I did a little checking, Lance, and the Gators were 108th in the nation last year in scoring. Again, they've got to go a long way to be competitive, and they can't do it in 1 year. I'm giving Florida 2 years, and then they're going to be contending for the Southeastern Conference Eastern Division. And for more after that.
If you wait 2 years, you won't ever catch up. Why do you think Scott Strickland went out and made this hire immediately? You just don't fire a coach after going back to Atlanta. He knew, if I don't get the right guy in here immediately, we'll never catch up. Dan Mullen's the right guy to fix it quick. I think you're looking at last year's record too much because, man, these juniors and seniors have been to Atlanta twice. You got 19 returning starters.
I'm looking for transition. I'm looking for the transition from one year to the next.
Why couldn't you win like Georgia did last year? Play defense, run the ball, and don't let your quarterback get you beat. Why couldn't the Gators win like that?
Georgia's another team that's going to have some issues this year. But I think they're going to be just good enough to win the East, and just good enough to beat Florida. And I see you losing the Mississippi State game, Lance. I see you winning the first 4 games of the year. I see you losing a tough game up in Knoxville after a Tennessee game, which Florida's going to be up for Tennessee. That's for their natural rival, and they're not going to be ready for Starkville, and Starkville's a tough place to play. They're not going to be ready for
Starkville with Dan Mullen as the coach?
Well, once again,
have you ever been a competitor?
Passion only gets you so far, and then talent kicks in.
Mississippi State is not more talented than the Florida Gators. We can go position by position right now. I'm just telling
you, the Mississippi State Bulldogs are going to be more motivated to play that day than the Florida Gators.
Motivation don't win ball games. Execution does. Let me tell you something. Let me tell you. Wouldn't you agree with this? The strength of their defense is their defensive line. How do you neutralize a defensive line? With great play calling, and Dan Mullen will get it done.
Oh, it's going to be a close game, but I just think Starkville's a tough place to win. And I think they're going to give Florida all they can handle. I think they pull a game out at the end. I see you beating LSU. I see you dropping the game to Vandy up in Nashville. Once again,
what are you talking about?
You're looking ahead to Georgia.
What are you talking about? Are you serious?
And things just catch up with you.
Are you serious right now?
You lose the Georgia game. You beat Missouri. You might beat South Carolina, but I got you losing it. Then you beat Idaho and you beat Florida State to finish the year. I mean, I got you 8-4, which is a respectable record considering how you had a losing record last year.
I don't care about last year. Do you not realize we had 10 suspensions? Did you not realize?
Hold on. I'm putting it in perspective.
Perspective is we lost 10 damn players. The perspective is we lost our 2 best offensive players. The perspective is Phil Steele picked us to win the East last year. We weren't that bad on talent. We didn't have the coaching. It's like me. I don't know if you feel this way, but I've never seen a bad kid. But I've seen a bunch of bad parents, and I feel the same way about this football team. We don't have bad players. We had bad coaches.
Well,
come on, man.
You got some good players. You got the Ole Miss
good players. We are elite.
The
running backs.
Wait a minute. Are you going to talk or are you going to listen to me?
I'll listen to you. Go
ahead. I'm telling you, the Ole Miss transfer, Van Jefferson, he's going to turn out to probably your best receiver this year.
I don't think so.
He's a really good player. But again, your offense, your quarterback's kind of questionable. Your offensive line is going to be your weakness. And that's what's going to slow you down this year, Lance.
That could be true. But I will tell you this. I like the talent on that offensive line. I like the cohesiveness that a lot of these guys got starts. I will say this. Coach McElwain didn't do no favors by hiring Brad Davis. I love Brad Davis, but you don't come to Florida to learn how to be an offensive line coach. These boys ain't had coaching that they need to compete in the SEC. And let me remind you this. Martez Ivey, it will be the number 1 tackle taken in the NFL draft. So if it's 3rd and 3, I know who I'm running behind. And Jawan Taylor, he's the 4th best rated tackle in all the SEC. So you got the tackles. You just need to figure it out on the inside.
Well, do you have one offensive coordinator or 2 of them, Lance?
I got Dan Mullen calling all the offensive plays.
Well, like I said, from what I understand, I've never even heard of your offensive coordinator. So
it's Dan Mullen. That's all you need to know. You ever heard of Dan Mullen?
You're going to have a good defense. Your offense is what slows you down.
I mean, you talked about our receivers, and all you talked about was Van Jefferson. Have you ever heard of Tyree Cleveland? One of the best deep threats.
Yes, I've heard of Tyree Cleveland.
He's one of the best.
I'm just telling you that Van Jefferson, at the end of the year, you're going to say he probably contributed more than any other receiver.
I've heard a lot of people say that.
That's just my opinion.
Well, I've heard a lot of people say that, and that's respectable to me. I can respect that. It don't matter to me who the top guy is, but what I want people to do is look at this thing as a unit. When you break cuddle with Trevor Grimes, 6'5", Tyree Cleveland, a true deep threat, Van Jefferson, a proven playmaker in SEC who's played outside and inside, and you talk about true freshman Jacob Copeland, who nobody wants to talk about, you realize this guy was in the car with Nick Saban right into that spring game. He was top notch on Alabama's list, and we stole his ass, and nobody wants to give us credit for it. And you don't know the X factor of Emory Jones yet. And I would warn folks, Dan Mullen will figure this out. Our wide receivers are untouchable, and our running back crew is deeper than Georgia's, and nobody wants to admit that either, man. You want to give me rankings over production? That shit don't work with me, man.
Well, what you got to realize, Lance, is that all these teams have talented players now. And so, it's going to be a dogfight. Nothing's going to be easy. And you're going to have to earn everything you got. And so far, Florida's been soft. You got to admit, they've been soft the past 6 or 8 years.
I don't think Florida's been soft. We just went back-to-back trips to Atlanta before last year. I don't consider that soft.
Well, yeah, and they got beat both times. I mean, I'm just telling you, they've been soft.
Georgia got beat last year, and everybody's crowning their ass. They're crowning their ass. What's the difference?
You talk about Mississippi State a lot since Dan Mullen's
talk about Mississippi State a lot. I'm going to miss Dan Mullen.
What do you think about Mississippi State? You think they've been a good program the past 6 or 8 years?
I think they've been, for their standard, they've been great.
But in an overall football, would you call them great or average?
You can't say it was average. The record would be average if you're at Alabama, but for the job Dan Mullen did at Mississippi State, I would call it great. Yeah, I would call it great.
Mississippi State. Do you know what Mississippi State's record has been the past 8 years?
I know he got them to number 1 in the middle of Alabama's dynasty. And if I would have asked you when Dan Mullen was
the past 8 years, Mississippi State has 64 wins and 39 losses.
Who cares?
The past 8 years, Florida has 60 wins and 41 losses. See what I'm saying? I mean, Florida's been an average school the past 6 or 8 years. They haven't been the same since 2009 when Bama spanked them in that SEC championship.
I mean, you state the obvious.
You can talk them up all you want until they go out on the field and actually kick somebody's ass and win some games. You know, I'm going to be a little skeptical, and like I said, I'm giving them an 8-4 this year. Well, maybe 9-3 if Mullen really cranks them up.
I'll tell you this right now: our worst case scenario is 10-2. If you want to talk about losing to Georgia and you want to talk about FSU, I'll have a legit conversation with you. But losing to Vanderbilt, losing to South Carolina, losing to Mississippi State is not going to happen. And I'm going to tell you right now, man, this ain't hype. I've studied this team. I don't think people realize the talent that is on this team, man. And what you really don't understand is what Dan Mullen brings as a head coach. Don't worry about what he did at Mississippi State. Their ceiling's only so high. He's never had a team this talented as he inherited this year with the Florida Gators. This Florida Gator team at 18 is more talented than any team he ever had at Mississippi State.
Starkville is 2 hours from my house. I follow Dan Mullen.
Give a damn where it is.
He got here, and like I said, he's a good coach. He'll do well for Florida. But you can't do it in a year, and it's going to take you a couple of years. So, and I'm a Florida fan, Lance. Have you ever been to Gainesville?
I'm going for the first game. That's what I was trying to tell Paul yesterday.
Well, if you go to Gainesville, get you a map, and between Gainesville and the Gulf Coast, there's a little town called Cedar Key, right there at the mouth of the Swanee River. There's a little town between Cedar Key and Gainesville called Chiefland, Florida. And I lived there as a child, maybe 30, 40 minutes from Gainesville, Florida. And I met some of the Florida players one time when I was a young man. I was 6th or 7th grade. I met Carlos Alvarez, who became the first hero that I ever had for football. When I met him, I set the goal to myself to play college football. I didn't play in the SEC. I played for a little school in Johnson City, Tennessee called East Tennessee State. And I couldn't get the number that I wore in high school when I went to Johnson City, so I asked for number 45 when I got there, and I wore it because of Carlos Alvarez there in Florida. Again, he was always the first hero I ever had in college football. So I've always been a Gator fan. But my mother and father were Alabama fans, so I was raised an Alabama fan. I met Bear Bryant in 9th grade, shook his hands, and told him I was going to play for him, but I never did. And but I was always a Bama fan from that point on. So, again, I'm a sidewalk alumni. I've got to go, Lance, but I really enjoyed talking with you.
All right, man. Hit me back up when the Gators win the East, man.
Take care. Hey, it's just my opinion, man. No offense. And we'll see. Hey, at the end of the year, we'll see who's right and who's wrong.
Call me back at the end of the year, man. Love having you.
Thanks for taking my call.
It's an honor, man. It's an honor. I appreciate it. Squirrel. Straight off Finebaum. 8-4 for the Gators. Losing to Vanderbilt. Oh, my. I got to tell you, man.